As with most things that give me brain rot, I came across a TikTok recently and I wanted to share some thoughts. So let me just give the TikTok a full playthrough and then I'll break down my thoughts bit by bit.
Is there any realm of possibility where you'd let me go to Colombia, Costa Rica, or the Dominican Republic with just me and my friends?
Just go. Have you noticed that I don't like care anymore?
I actually have noticed that, and it's pissing me off. Why doesn't she care
That's why
anymore?
that's why you're trying to get a rise out of
Yeah,
me.
you don't care at all anymore.
I know, it's kind of boring, right?
I know.
Right.
I used to hide my phone. Now she comes over and it's just girl's ass is clapping on Instagram. And she's like, girl power, love it. That's what she'll say to me. She's like, well, you want something to eat, honey? She just doesn't care. So are you having an affair? That's the question.
No, I don't want to be bothered.
You're at that point of the relationship where you just don't even care at all either way.
No.
Indifference.
Don't care.
That's good.
But I love you.
I love you too.
Right, so today we're going to be talking about learned helplessness, but before we get into that, thank you to Babbel for sponsoring today's video. I've been having this feeling recently that I just missed that back to school feeling. I think it was because it's a new beginning, a fresh start to learning when all these doors are wide open, and just being in a culture where it's time to learn now. And if you're out of school like me, but even if you are still in school, one really cool way to learn more and to broaden your horizons is by learning a new language. So that is where Babbel comes in. Babbel is one of the top language learning apps in the world. They have, I looked 662,000 reviews, and after using them, I can see why, because it's literally created to better help you both speak and write and understand. It's extremely convenient to just learn a language from the comfort of your own home without having to go in person like you used to need to do back in the day. You can do it on your own time, you can invest however much or little you want into it, and there's no limit to what you can use it for. You can use it for travel, business, relationships. A funny story on that, actually. So when my husband and I were moving to a different country about 6 weeks ago or so, we each had a cat near our feet. This little girl comes up to my husband and she starts talking to him in a foreign language. And at first he had no idea what she was trying to say. So he just told her, sorry, I don't speak this language. And then she said something again and he caught one word that he did know in this language, a word that meant cat. And he was like, oh, she wants to see my cat. Let me show it to you. So he goes down to pull out our cat Chianti. And he realizes that our cat is gone. And the little girl was trying to communicate to him that she saw the cat push up against the carrier, open the zipper, and run out. Luckily, she didn't get very far. She only got 2 rows up. Some man grabbed her by the harness. Harness literally fell over her head as he caught her, and my husband caught the cat just in time. So crisis averted. Not sure what her goal was. Maybe to go into the cockpit. But the point is that it can be extremely helpful to speak the same language as other people, or at the very least, get by a little bit here and there. Because knowing that one word literally saved us in a moment of crisis. One thing that I especially love about Babbel is that they have a quiz in the beginning to help figure out what level you're at, and if it's not the right level, you can go further ahead or further back, depending on whether you need something more complex or more basic.
Di dove sei?
Di dove sei?
Sono di Palermo.
Sono di Palermo.
Di dove sei?
Di dove sei? Sono di
Sono di
Palermo. They have lessons created by over 650 language experts and a 20-day money-back guarantee if it's not the app for you. Get 60% off your subscription using my link below. And let me know which language you'd like to learn and why. Thank you again to Babbel. Alright, so going back to the video in question, let's run through and pause a little bit when I have a thought. And before we get into that, it makes no sense to comment on these particular people's relationship. Certainly there's something that they put out there on the internet for us to react to, but I really want to focus here on the topic at hand rather than their actual relationship, because at the end of the day, I don't know them. I don't know what goes on in their relationship. Maybe this is just a bit for promo, who knows? So I'm not going to comment on them specifically, but rather the topic that this TikTok brings up. So let's get into it.
Is there any realm of possibility where you'd let me go to Colombia, Costa Rica, or the Dominican Republic with just me and my friends?
Just go. Have you noticed that I don't like care anymore?
I actually have noticed that, and it's pissing me off.
Okay. Behave, Anna, behave. This brings up an interesting topic because I know sometimes in straight relationships there will be this dynamic between men and women where women raise a concern or a criticism with their partner and their partner doesn't really want to implement a change based on what they're asking of them. And I think a lot of women get fed this message that, you just need to be chill about it. You just need to not care. Just let him do whatever he wants and then everything will be fine and dandy. Side note, I know I was speaking here primarily primarily about a specific gender dynamic that I've observed. There is some research from John Gottman observing that men overall tend to accept influence less from their female partners, which is a big roadblock for romantic relationships, and it's also been documented that straight relationships tend to have a pattern where the woman brings up criticism and the man responds with defensiveness. So these are the specific patterns I was referencing here, but this is definitely not a dynamic that solely affects women in straight relationships. But this brings up an interesting question of, well, what if you do that? What if you act like the cool girl, the chill girl, you don't care about these things? What happens if your partner doesn't like that? Why would your partner not like that? If it pisses off your partner that you are not getting upset over their behavior, I think there are a number of things that we could hypothesize there. The chief one being that they were engaging in that behavior to get a rile out of you, that they actually wanted to upset you. And why would your partner want to do that? But there are people that do this. There are people that, for instance, will triangulate their partner with somebody else that their partner is jealous of and kind of pit them against each other just to cause friction, just to feel like, oh, I'm so desired. Look at these two people fighting over me. You know, I would think that in a healthy relationship, if one partner is saying, hey, this doesn't work for me, and the other partner says, I don't care, that if that first partner eventually lets up, that would be a relief for the other person. No?
Why doesn't she care
That's why
anymore?
you're trying to get a rise out of
Yeah,
it.
you don't care at all anymore.
I know, it's kind of boring, right?
I know.
Fight.
I used to like hide my phone. Now she comes over and it's just like girls' asses clapping on Instagram. And she's like, girl power, love it. That's what she'll say to me. She's like, you want something to eat, honey? She just doesn't.
Okay. How incredibly convenient, right? How incredibly convenient for the boyfriend in the situation or husband or whatever he is, that he can do whatever he wants and the partner's reaction is not only casual, but also like characterized by inservitude of like, hey, let me make you a sandwich.
So are you having an affair?
That is the question. This is a really important piece. I saw some comments in reaction to this saying like, oh, why would he assume that she's having an affair just because she's chill with it now? To me, it makes perfect sense. That's actually what I was wondering myself. Because you have to remember, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. If you think about like two axes, you have on one axis how positively or negatively you feel towards a person. And on the other axis, you have how powerfully you feel towards this person. So when you feel very powerful, positive feelings towards someone, we can call that love. When you feel very negative, strong feelings towards someone, we call that hate. Love and hate sit next to each other on the graph. They're not across from each other. What's across from love is actually indifference, where you don't feel very strongly about somebody, but you do feel kind of negatively towards them. And maybe the opposite of hate would be something like, I don't know, calm goodwill. You know, like you don't feel really strongly about a person, but you just want like good things to happen to them. Maybe just like a passerby when you're going about your day. So it does make sense to me that somebody would be concerned about infidelity or betrayal when someone has come to that place of indifference, because that is the opposite of love. I think jealousy is to some extent an expression of love. I think that it's there for a reason. A lot of us see jealousy as like proof of a person's love. Like, hey, you just want me for yourself. And when that doesn't exist, all the poly people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but it kind of begs the question, how strongly do you really feel about this person? Because if you felt really strongly passionate about them, I would think there would be some level of fear about losing them to somebody else. That's essentially what jealousy is. It's fear of losing someone that you care about to someone else. Now, whether or not you want to express that jealousy is something completely different. And I've mentioned in other videos, I don't think that jealousy is usually effective to express in the vast majority of situations. And here we see exactly why. When this woman is practicing not expressing any jealousy, whether it's authentic or not, it doesn't really matter for all intents and purposes. That's actually what gets under her partner's skin more. That's actually going to get under the skin of somebody that's trying to make you jealous. And something else that I think is really important for us to talk about is learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is a concept that arose out of experiments with dogs, first and foremost. Forgive me if I don't remember the exact details of the experiments, but the gist of it from what I can recall is that they had like two connected cages and they would shock the dog in one of the cages And in the beginning, most dogs would migrate to the other cage, but after a while, they grew so helpless with the fact that there was nothing they could do to change their circumstances that they stopped migrating to the other cage. They stopped even trying to save themselves. People experience learned helplessness when they've been taught by life and they've sort of internalized this attitude that nothing I can do is going to affect my outcomes, so why even try? And they just become kind of numb and apathetic. But something that I've seen a lot in relationships between particularly men and women is when a woman feels really powerless about whatever situation's happening in her relationship, when she feels like there's nothing I can do that can motivate this person to change, to listen to what I need from them, to do what I'm asking of them. There's nothing I can do to get my needs met in the situation. There comes a point where many of them just kind of give up and they lean into learned helplessness and they just can't be bothered anymore. They just don't have the energy. It's a self-protective mechanism because if you think about it, trying over and over and over again to advocate for yourself when the same outcome happens, that nothing changes, it exerts a lot of energy. It causes a lot of mental distress. Your mind wants to protect you. It doesn't want you to feel all that unnecessary pain. So sometimes when you've dealt with an overload of it, your mind just kind of shuts out. Maybe you dissociate from it. And I've often observed that women require a lot in order to finally break up with their partner who they care about. They kind of let a lot of things slide. And so what happens then is they get to this point of learned helplessness before actually breaking up with that person. And that stage of learned helplessness is often the very last step before the relationship disintegrates. So again, it makes sense that this guy would be wondering about an affair. Because if a woman has mentally checked out, that's a possibility she might entertain. And also another reason why somebody might not be bothered by their partner's behavior is if they know deep down that what they're doing is a lot worse. So again, I too would worry if I were in such a situation if the other person were having an affair, because I'd be wondering, why are you so okay with my poor behavior? What are you doing?
The question.
No, I don't want to be bothered.
You're at that point of the relationship where you just don't even care at all either way.
I really take issue with this being framed as like a normal stage in the relationship. I don't think that it's a normal stage to be unbothered, to not care about what your partner is doing, or to be numb to it. I actually think that's a major sign that the relationship needs to be looked at closely. So please, let's not act like this is a normal stage in relationships.
Indifference.
It's okay.
That's good.
But I love you.
I love you too.
That was a hard watch. Hard watch. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. And also, if you've ever come to this place in a relationship, whatever your gender is, don't have to be necessarily a woman. If you've ever gotten to the point where you're like, I feel so powerless that I'm just going to become completely numb and apathetic to this relationship, and I don't even care what my partner does anymore, how long did it take before y'all broke up? Jot it down in the comments. Don't forget to check out Babbel by checking the link below, and I'll see you soon.